Welcome to this edition of Nisa Voices, where we amplify voices of Muslim women in different aspects. Today's episode, we are looking at the 2026 general elections in Uganda, and we want to see whether women participated fully in this election process and what it means for the country. We also want to understand clearly whether there is impactful involvement of women in the politics and decision making in line with the aspirations of the Islamic Women's Initiative for Justice, Law and Peace. My name is Kenneth Anderson, your host, and today I'm joined by two ladies who were involved in the thick and thin of the election process. Let me introduce them. Ms Mriam Lutale, she was a candidate in the Lubaga North parliamentary elections. She comes from the PFF party. Thank you so much for joining us on this edition of Nisa Voices.
Thank you.
Also in studio, here we have Ms Faridah Lule, who is the Executive Director at USHAID Foundation. She's an election observer. She was among those people who followed closely what transpired in the election process. It's a pleasure having you on this episode of Nisa Voices.
Thank you, Kenneth, and I'm happy to be here.
All right. Let me begin with you, Ms Mriam Lutale, because you were a participant as a candidate in this election process. What would be your report card on how the election process transpired in this country, especially on the side of a woman who is also a Muslim taking part in this election process?
Thank you very much. That question is very central and timely. And personally, I feel generally I was received well as a woman and as a Muslim woman, and I didn't feel discriminated against. And I classify myself as a Muslim who is urban, very different from the one who is rural, or who is us who are urban Muslims. We dominate a lot. Because we are enlightened, we are educated, and even in Kampala, people where I stood as a candidate, the space was very receptive. And looking at the challenges I faced, because I was a director, MP, not a woman, I cannot say I felt. Of course, they used it. My competitors used it. That. They were playing tricks, I guess, that a woman will not serve men every. And then, of course, when I went to different masjids and mosques and visited elders, they were very open. However, of course, some local leaders were like, hey, a woman, because I was new. I spent 3 months in Lubaga, my campaign. I was a new face. My party was also a new party. So I cannot put it on my gender or my religion. But it could be that because I was new to people and they were curious to know who is this and which is this party. So I cannot categorically say it was that my gender or my religion played against me as a candidate right now. Although in some areas, I feel like my opponents were using it as a weakness, like it's a weakness. The woman will not be able. The woman cannot, because the woman is controlled. There's someone behind the man. But I am a woman who not only advocated that the reason, the cause I came into politics was not purely for political reasons. Fronting a person who was unjustly imprisoned. And this is a man. And because I was raised in a homestead where both male and female were competing, like there were that balance was there. So
no segregation.
No segregation. So if I can come out and stand as a candidate and my own people don't feel like I'm weak as a woman to front their rights or to step up and come on the front line, I don't feel anyone should doubt a woman's performance. And I'm happy with my daughters. It didn't come out. It was there, but it was subtle. Yes.
All right. I want to go to you, Faridah. You were an election observer in this particular process. Before the election process started, we got an update from the Electoral Commission, which indicated that women were the majority voters. From your assessment as somebody who followed the election process, where women fully engaged in this process as candidates, as participants, as voters, what is your take on that particular situation?
Yeah, I think the electoral statistics from Electoral Commission were actually true. We had 21 million voters registered in the whole country, and 11 were women.
11 million.
11 million were women. And on all the polling stations countrywide, there is no single polling station that presented high numbers of women, where men were more than women. On all polling stations, we had the women more. They registered more than men. So that means that women are very active. But when it comes to real participation, we can't get those numbers, those statistics, because we try to argue with the Electoral Commission and advocate for those numbers to be sure that we have the statistics. If the women participated, registered as voters, and in all polling stations, there are more than men, on election day, what happens? Is it the same? So we wanted the Electoral Commission on that DR form to actually include how many women have turned up to vote. So we do not get those figures. So you can't just guess maybe in few areas which you have sampled, and then you see how they have been able to participate, but you cannot have concrete figures of actually how women participated. But overall, when you look at the registration, if they manage to register as voters, that means they were interested also in participating. On a few polling stations that we visited, you realize that the men came very, very early in the morning, but the women after 9:30 to 4:30 or 5, at least you would see many women coming up to vote.
Probably something to do with the gender roles. That sometimes they were busy at home trying to do house chores or things like that.
Sometimes some would attribute that because they have a lot of work to do, finish before they actually head out. But again, at some polling station, when you like for example at around 3, when I did the math, I realized that the women who had turned up to vote were few than men. For example, when I went to there's a polling station in Kafumbe Mkasa Road, and also around Kafumbe Mkasa Road and Mukwano, and also at Nakasero. I would ask the polling agents how many women have turned up. The numbers were very few. So for me, I alluded that to the violence or to the fear that had actually, the statements that were exchanged from, because there was a polling station which had 600 voters, but only 150 had actually turned up, 157, but of the 157, only 30 were women. So that means I actually saw that the voter turnout at the end of the day is going to be low. Because when I was doing my analysis at around 3, I realized so. So that means that women registered more, but they did not turn up to vote. Why? Not because of the activities at home, but because of the fear, the statements that were coming through security and also Electoral Commission and the politicians, and what they have seen before. most of them decided to stay at home, and they did not turn up to come and work and vote. Yeah.
Ms Lutale, the environment that Faridah talks about and how it affects participation of voters in the election process, what was the experience? The violence that was anticipated, the statements that were flying around, what did they mean to you as a candidate? Did you feel comfortable fully engaging in this process? Did you get concerns from your voters, your camp, as far as the environment was concerned?
Of course, the environment was, the ground was not level. There's violence within the opposition, then violence within the ruling party and the opposition. And personally, as a candidate, I feel from day one, putting down my posters. So I had to work like every week. I had to make sure I'm refilling.
So they were destroying your posters.
That's one. Now that means I won't get the attention. By the time I reached election day, I had a few. You know, I was fielded for Kampala Women MP. So I got all these posters from Kampala and I poured them in Lubaga. But by election day, I had none. So I cannot point to someone, I can't say the voters, I can't say my opponents. But again, at my polling station in Mengu, there was violence. There's a gang in Bakuri. There's a gang, I think it's a gang. And this person was standing for LC3, the candidate. That gang is very powerful in Bakuri. It came to Mengu, and then they got a clash with the no.
Rival camps.
Yes, they fought, police had to come, and I was there that day. I stayed, at that place nearby. So violence is something now, I always tell, I even knew it. It's something we anticipate. We are not surprised. It's something we anticipate, just like all the election cycles in Uganda. Violence is something, it's part of our elections. I was like, okay, this is what everyone goes through. So I'll enter this and see how it comes out. I wasn't surprised personally. Because it's expected to be opposition. But at that point in time, now it was opposition against opposition. Where I was, by polling station, it was one, is it Gary and someone else's Gary. Then police came, tear gas. Then, of course, the polling station went off for about 30 minutes. Then work was resumed.
When you look at the election process, were issues of women able to come out during the campaign process? And what would you see as those key issues, even using the lens of a Muslim woman, the issues that you think necessitate to focus on, even as probably you prepare for the next campaign?
As a Muslim woman and a woman, gender and religion, it is felt that it is even seen we are marginalized. It's true. One, because of our gender roles, culture, and society generally. But personally, I feel Muslim women, they voted. They were mobilized. They are seen as influencers. They are seen as, they are good in numbers. They always show up. But at this point in time, it's not about, we shouldn't be seen as influencers, voters, people who facilitate the process, because they are rights holders. They also have rights. Where is their voice? They need someone to voice them. Where do they go? Yes, they vote, but at the end of it, it comes down to one thing. It's not about participation. It's about, okay, the outcome, the electoral outcomes are out. We know the winners. Where are your rights? How are you going to reconcile the electoral outcomes with the rights of Muslim women, or women at large? So I feel our setup, our family laws as Muslims, there are gaps between our family laws and the electoral processes, even the civil laws of Uganda. But as Muslim women, I think we've reached that point whereby we shouldn't just have rights. We have rights, and because we have rights, leaders must be alive. That these are not just, it's not just about the process, voting, and then you go back. Who is there? Who mobilizes them? What do they need? Do they go to police? Do they go to Uganda Muslim Supreme Council, because this is a state body funded? to take care of all those things. When you look at us as a structure, most spaces mosques are controlled by the male. So you find that when a woman has a legal redress, things to do with maybe standing, the first I say their justice is the LC. We do not have a formal structure where these women can go. And there is a narrative that we are vulnerable as Muslim women, we need protection. But this vulnerability, when I look at it, it's more of being poor, poverty, illiteracy, and maybe community backlash. If a woman came out and went to courts, or if a woman came out and stood, something I did not feel because I come from a well-balanced, they are enablers. My family has been enabling me both.
The upbringing.
I think it should start from there. But again, even with the upbringing, the community, when it comes to, I like saying us, urban voices, we dominate. Muslim women in urban spaces, we dominate. But those women, someone, a widow in Busoga, a young mother in Karamoja who is a Muslim, the fate of them, where do they go? Their justice is police, LC, then it stops at that. So I feel there are discrepancies, but again, you look at us in the urban areas, it's not so bad like those days in the women, in the Muslim woman in the rural areas.
Faridah, the issue of women as the campaign messages were being passed around, did you see them at the fore? Because the women were majority voters, which means every person was interested in their ballot so that they can be supported to win the election. What are some of the things that you think shaped the outcome of the election in terms of the women voters?
I think one thing that was cut across was the PDM money. The parish development model money that the government had dished out. I think most of the politicians, especially those from NRM, relied much on it and assured the ladies that, you know what, you're not going to pay. Some people are lying, they were actually telling the ladies, the women, that they will not pay that money. So, since if they vote back this government in power. But despite the fact that we have the high numbers, there is no strategic plan for these women. Maybe that, these people are managed to register and we have more voters, so meaning we have to target them. Apart from going door to door and also maybe meeting them in their circles, but there is no government policy or strategic plan by the Electoral Commission to target these women. To appreciate them for having registered in high numbers. If they registered, what are the issues that are facing that will stop them from actually turning out to vote or participate in other activities? I think that plan is not there. We are all generalized. Not Muslims, not the vulnerable, not the people who are actually disabled. None is prioritized by the Electoral Commission. What they do is to come up with general messages that run out to everyone. But to be specific that maybe these people are more weak, we should actually have more emphasis on women since they have registered more and we have them actually on board, because not everybody knows the process. You would actually find a woman in the village, she has no idea what is required of her to go actually and vote. Someone actually doubted whether if her ID was expired, she's not going to be able to vote. So they needed that assurance, they needed some of those messages, but no one was there to actually give them those messages. Meaning that most of them actually, because they didn't have messages, they didn't have information to tell them how the process is going to be rolled out. Some were left out, despite the fact that they registered. Yes, and most of these politicians were targeting. They knew that women are soft ground, so they were going for women because they know that it is very easy to approach a woman and she will not ask you for money. Apart from those who are in urban areas, but those in rural areas will actually just submit and, okay, I'll give you my vote, since that person has approached them directly. But when we need something, we need a strategy, we need a strong policy to make sure that we bring all these women on board because they want to vote, they want to participate. But there are so many factors that actually affect them, that help them. Like, for example, the fear they had. If you wanted, if you believe me or you know that the women who actually wanted to participate in this election had fear. And no one came on board to actually to assure, to give them the assurance that, you know what, all is going to be good. The only message that came from security, no, this is it, and this is it. Even the electoral commission said, yes, what the security people are saying, that is what is going to happen. So even civil society organizations were not actually given that enough space to give the assurance to women that, you know what, you should come out and vote. Despite all these other factors, you have a right to participate.
There was no effective civic education.
Effective civic education. There was no proper message to actually calm the situation. Apart from a few messages, all is going to be well, we are going to have a peaceful election, but people are not seeing that. Good enough on the election, they will have a peaceful election, but they did not have that assurance. That's why you see people staying out.
All right. Ms. Mriam Lutale, let me come back to you. There's the issue of patriarchy and decision-making in homes for women to participate in such spaces, including politics. And when it comes to a Muslim woman, when you say you come from a grounded background where you have equal rights like the boys in the family, but there are other places where somebody must give you permission to actually engage. To what extent do you think this kind of situation, patriarchy, is holding back women who are Muslims from effectively engaging in matters of governance in our country?
Personally, I feel most families or communities that are exposed, the patriarchy is there, but on a subtle level. We do have patriarchs, but they are liberal. Strong patriarchs, but they are liberal. The balance I'm talking about is that if you're parents and you have both male and female children, if you let them compete like freely, the question of their gender will not arise in their entire career. Personally, I attended single schools from primary to senior form. I felt the difference for the first time when I joined a mixed school, and I was just little, but I felt I could not socialize freely. Now, after senior 6-5, then Makerere University, I never thought about my gender as a problem. I've never seen myself as weak because I compete with the boys without thinking about this is a boy is going to win. I sit down, I read, you read, then we compete favorably. But personally, I feel our participation as women, we should look to participate in politics is not actually control. Leave alone our patriarchal societies. But this participation that women will always stand up. Women will always stand up because we outnumber the men almost all over the world. They will turn up, they will vote, they will mobilize, they will do everything politically. But now the hard metrics we have to think about for our women, where I come from, because at a certain point you make a decision as a person, even with the patriarchy, because that one can't go. It's religious, it's cultural, and it's subtle. Even with modern, educated men. I feel political participation is very different from political control. We want the hard metrics, like how many women, for example, if you look at our body, it's a state-funded body, as I said before, Uganda Muslim Student Council. How many women have led it? That's one. Then number two, when we come, we want women on budget committees. We want women on development fund. How many are in control? How many women sit on, district
decision-making position?
Funds. Who controls the funds? Who sits on cabinets? Who is at the district leadership? We do not want just the participation. We want women because part of our population, we are women, and we outnumber men. But when you look at women in leadership or in the decision-making, we are a few. Now, if we continue with women participated, Muslim women, not only Muslim women, but Muslim women, participated. At the end of it all, who is going to cut? Who has the influence for these Muslim women? Who has come out to voice their needs? Who knows their needs? Who mobilizes them? So questions like that, as she had mentioned earlier, we need a mechanism like scorecards, accountability. Maybe charters, public, commitments on us, the leader, that yes, we are here, women outnumber men, but why is it that the men are making the most decisions in parliament, committees, funds to the district? These are men, but we outnumber you. So how will you know what sits with us if we are not in the decision-making processes? So I feel the participation is there, yes, but it's not enough.
Well, Faridah, the post-election period, the period that we are in, are there any particular concerns that still linger, things that you think are disturbing the ordinary citizens, even women, connected to the election process that we went in? You commented about the fear that was there during the election process. Do we still have that kind of situation, that environment, and what we need to do to overcome it?
Yeah, I think the decisions that the government, those in executive, took to displace all the women on streets right exactly after the election has also left them
the traders.
The traders. Yeah, and they are directly connecting it to the election. And then also when we were doing the tiring at the Tari Center, how women were treated, because everyone was shooting. The social media people, the TV people were actually relaying it live, what is happening. So that alone also affected people who would want to participate more. Because the way these local councillors were treated, people are not sure whether their results will be out.
It was a fight to be declared.
It was a fight. And not only for big positions, but also the small positions. And also the small, I looked at those young girls, fighting, crying. And yet they have gone through a lot to actually be there, to actually even come out and participate, to come out and stand for a position. It's not something easy. So they came out, stood as councillors, as district women, district local government, but they were not even still sure, despite the fact that they had participated, they had mobilized, they were not sure they were going to be announced. So we really need to go back on the drawing board and where did we go wrong? What needs to be done for us to give an assurance that the election can actually translate into better life even after elections. Even during elections, it is an exciting game that you don't have to fight. So all those women who watched these girls, who watched these women fight for their win, will not actually want to, because this all happened after it was post-election. So they would not want to participate. They will have to actually sit back. If this person at this level came out and stood for a councillor, Machi, and this is what she went through. Then she was beaten. She was fighting for her win. At the end of the day, this person was announced. But the picture that you display out there, people will actually, you will find that in the next election, you find fewer women. It hinders participation of women, and you'll see fewer women participating. I don't want to be treated like Nambasa, how she was treated. I don't want to be treated like this lady of Masaka. Those other ugly pictures that happen in election translate in the post-election. And not only post-election, even in the coming elections, you will see that the numbers will dwindle down. And then why do you have to take, I'm not saying that the cleaning of the city was unnecessary. It was really necessary. But immediately after election, there is a way people connected to election. Like we actually, after voting them, this is what they actually...
they needed them.
They needed them.
To vote and get them on the streets. Exactly. Then after, they discard them.
In the next coming election, either people who will turn up will come to revenge, or they will not participate in what? Totally, they will not participate in the coming elections. Why? Because there is a way government does things abrupt, as in you don't prepare the country if you are going to implement something. 1 week after election, we are coming for you, but you are not telling them how you came. Actually, you drew the whole plan, because it's supposed to be a policy.
The alternative.
Leave alone the people will understand. This is where we are going. If we have an alternative policy, like we have a policy of how to remove traders. Those maybe everyone who is working on the street will have a policy, and this is how the policy rolls out. And these are the impacts, and this is what we want to achieve. You sensitize everyone, and everyone understands where we are going. They will appreciate. and even have an alternative in your policy. That, in this policy that we have come up, this is how far we've benchmarked here, and this is we want to clean the city, and we've created also alternative venues for these people, and they will not connect it to the election because they know that this policy has been ongoing, government has been doing research, and this is what is going to happen. But right now, when you go to police, you will see that the crime rate is high. Why? People are now stealing from those who they think are okay. But even those who are okay are not what? Are not okay.
And most of the people being targeted are women.
Exactly.
Women who are working on mobile money services, in markets, their bags being snatched.
So I think certain things, whether you like it or not, you cannot convince those town dwellers, that it was not even connected to elections. They really have to connect it, and that's why you saw some people crying. You lied to us, you are convincing us. So somehow, and it's a good program. It's a good program because we need a clean city. But whether you like it or not, everyone who was affected is connecting it to elections.
All right. Ms. Mriam, let's look at this post-election period. What do you think would be the key demands as a woman who is actively engaged in the matters governance of this country? What are some of the issues that you think those who have been elected should be able to do for the ordinary women of this country?
As we say, we are women outnumber men. I think men are, I'm not statistical, I'm thinking men are one third and women, maybe we double your number. But when it comes to post-election, as I said, it's a gap. No one accounts. Many promises are made before or during campaigns, even before. These 5 years, people are going to make promises. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. There is no charter to track. Because these are public servants. When you become a leader, you're supposed to serve the people. Now, some leaders come and then they serve themselves. People will never see them again. This thing, we even felt it's lingered in the voters. You go, you talk to people and they don't come back. It has, people have lost trust in the leaders they have. So, as she had said before, there must be something, a mechanism, because no one follows up, no one tracks. How are our leaders performing? Are they fronting our issues in parliament? Did they come back? These voters, leave alone women or Muslims or Muslim women, who comes out and says that, you see, this is the promise you made. Now this is post-election. What is the way forward? Personally, I feel there should be scorecards. It shouldn't be a secret. Someone will watch the performance. Someone will know that these issues we are fronting. There should be scorecards or mechanisms through alliances, because government cannot like follow up or track. Even individuals can track. So I feel civil society, podcasts like this, and maybe awareness, sensitization, so that people are actually aware. When we look at first world countries who introduce democracy to us, they follow up on your individual, even your history. Here, voters forget. Maybe because of issues like poverty, illiteracy, there is a way people have this amnesia. You somehow after 1 year, someone does something grave, public funds are at stake. We had scandals in Karamoja. Okay, they followed up, but still it's unclear. We don't know what actually transpired. So I feel in our systems, yes, they are not perfect. Even our voters, even our people, we need to come up with mechanisms, accountability mechanisms, to track the performance of our leaders so that they deliver to the public.
All right. But let me stay with you a little bit. Let's look at the legislative agenda. As a Muslim woman, there are issues that are outstanding in terms of laws to do with families, among other issues, equality. What would you like to see in that particular?
As a Muslim woman, of course, there's a discrepancy. The Uganda family laws or marriage laws, basically family laws, the government or the state or our state laws try to incorporate the civil. We have civil laws, then we have customary laws, then we have our Muslim laws. The issue here, personally, I feel there is a gap. I'll give you an example for a woman out there. A woman wants to to a Kadi courts. We have Kadi courts for Muslims. The reason you don't know about them, they sit at districts, or you've not seen them, they're underfunded, they're understaffed. So a woman will run maybe to a Kadi court to ask for the basics, a protection order in cases of maybe domestic violence from the Kadi courts. These ones lack enforcement. So these Kadi courts will refer this woman to our civil courts. Now, when the woman comes to our civil courts, again, they will refer her back to the Kadi courts, because these are two systems. Now, the woman is stranded. Most Muslim women fall between two systems which have not been harmonized. So now that confusion there makes our civil courts refer, then this one refer. That confusion leaves most women's issues unaddressed. So personally, I feel their justice ends at local council level or police level. I mean that they go up. That's why you don't hear them sufficing. And most spaces in most Muslim spaces are controlled by men. So I feel our women, I as a Muslim woman, our Kadi courts have a lot of work to do. A lot of work. Issues to do with qualification, issues to do with getting that power, that enforcement. They cannot enforce. When it comes to issues like
revise the law, enact it.
We cannot, because there are two systems. We just need to harmonize these two laws, because now it cannot handle issues of inheritance. They cannot handle issues of, as I said, protection orders, maintenance. There are so many discrepancies. Now, they've been, I appreciate Iwila, people who have come out to bring this to light. But bringing it to light is not enough. We have had the right advocacy. People have advocated, people have spoken. We have reached that point as a Muslim woman or Muslim women where advocacy should be translated into legislation, where advocacy should be translated into litigation. Cases come up and they end at, they die at a certain point, because someone says, I've not helped, so it dies out. So I feel our systems, the two systems, both Islam and civil, there's a bridge. And that bridge, enforcement issues come up, and then the two courts they don't work. You go to civil, they say we don't understand these things. You go to Kadi courts, we can't enforce. So our women fall between two systems. This is a fact, a hard truth we have to live with.
So it's one of the things that you think needs to be handled during this process.
Harmonizing.
All right. Faridah, I want to come to you. One of the agendas of this organization, WILA, that is behind this podcast, is to ensure that women enjoy their rights, they have full participation in the election process, there is justice, but also respect for law, religion, values, and etc. What kind of advice would you give this kind of organization in moving forward this agenda, especially on the side of full participation of Muslim women in the governance and electoral process?
Maybe what we can do is just to work with the Electoral Commission to have specific messages that actually go out to the Muslim women. But as for now, the Electoral Commission follows the general law. And the general law does not actually single out any party. No Catholics, does not target the Catholics or Muslims, so you can't do much. So when the Electoral Commission actually is relaying out messages, for them their target is to everyone. And in this case, they don't take Muslims as the minority. So why are they vulnerable? So why should we target them? Why is the reason as to why we should go out for them? Have we had any baseline survey that speaks to it, that they really need help? So we need, first of all, they need to do a baseline survey to actually have a case.
To understand
exactly. So when they do that, they'll be able to speak and to advocate for maybe an amendment. But what I know is that the legislation part of it, especially when it comes to the whole country, it is rare to see that if they come up with a legislative that actually advocate for Muslims, even the Catholics will say even us, we need some information because we are also left out. The Protestants, the same. So maybe what this organization should do is for them to have an advocacy to target women, organize the women and target them directly and actually empower them and make sure that they make informed voices. Make sure that the information that the Electoral Commission releases, you grab it and actually take it down to the women. Because you would see when it comes to election, most people do not even know that we are going to vote. Even the requirement for one to stand, what do I need to stand for MP? What do I need to stand for local position? Most people have no idea. They have no idea that now the Electoral Commission has rolled out the roadmap. So for them, what they can do is to make sure that whenever the activities are going to happen in an electoral cycle, to pick out that information and relay it down to the women. They should engage them and make sure that at least they understand the process. Because you cannot have someone engage in the process when they don't understand the process. And that is where the problem comes from. But you will not actually talk about an amendment in the law to target women, Muslim women. No, they're not vulnerable. Just like the people who are disabled. At least the people who are disabled, those who they can make a case blind, those who can't actually hear, at least you can make a case for them. But Muslim women, we are okay. So you cannot begin saying we are advocating for a law for a Muslim woman to actually for the Electoral Commission to target a Muslim woman because she's vulnerable. How? So you cannot have a case that said.
All right.
Exactly.
So they need to
get whatever we have and then localize it.
Okay.
And reach spaces where the Electoral Commission does not actually reach, or where the government does not reach. For example, the PDM. It's not about elections only, but also the PDM funds. How do someone qualify to get those funds? And for you at this level, you can understand and you know the requirements and you know where the money is. So it's better you open up the channels with those women and get them skilled and try to train them on how to access, make groups and help them actually organize themselves to access that funding, such that they are able also to benefit in the process.
All right. We are coming to the end of this discussion, and I want to request you kindly to make your closing remarks, and I'll begin with you, Ms Mriam Lutale, as a person who actively engaged in the political process in this country. What message would you want to leave behind for the Wheeler and also the people who are viewing this podcast?
First and foremost, I wanted to comment on something she mentioned. She talked about PDM. Personally, I see PDM, those microloans. I think it's about time women are beyond that. What is 1 million going to change about your life? I feel, as I said before, that we want to be in control because our voices need to be heard, to be translated into things that can change our day-to-day lives. That good governance can only be seen or translated through the daily lives of people. So personally, I feel there are so many issues for us. Post-election, electoral outcomes did not change the social issues that stand within the voters. Poverty is still high, education high, fees, health. These issues, the electoral outcomes are not going to work these things until we have leaders that are accountable who can come down and change the basic social services of people. Because all that people demand, all that people want, we coming from opposition, we are not just, opposing, but we want to change the lives of a day average Ugandan, woman or man. How is his life or standard of living going to change? The leaders can't do it. The leaders are running after money. They are corrupt. They are changing everything. The government is trying to secure itself in power. Then how about that person, that common man? We've reached a point where we need to come and make a mechanism, scorecards for our leaders. We need to tie them down, to track them, to come down to the people and work for the people as we wait for other things to change.
Faridah, your closing remarks.
Yeah, I think we really need to mobilize ourselves and make a case because we have the voice. I always take an example of the disabled people in Kenya here. They registered themselves and they had their numbers and then they started making their voice to the candidates. That we want all the cars that we are going to import from outside Kenya for disabled will not pay taxes for them. They made the case and it was hard. So even the Muslim women can have a strong voice. Let us mobilize ourselves properly and we have an agenda. What we want as well as Muslim women. This is what we want. We want our voice heard. These are the issues that you need to address. And then we have a team that can follow up. But we need to have a very strong voice. If we had, for example, the civil society organizations, what has happened to the civil society organization? Because we are not one. You find the other one is there, the other one is there, and we don't actually back each other. We do not have a strong voice for all the civil society organizations. So you create a space and gap for the enemy or for whoever doesn't think well for you to actually penetrate and bring you down. So we need to start from zero and mobilize ourselves and make these politicians understand that we have a voice, and this voice needs to be heard from wherever we are, and we are suffocating by those who are actually in leadership. So I think the organization here can actually start from zero and register women, maybe all Muslim women. If the next press conference, they share facts that we have 2 billion women in our database, and we can reach out to each and every one using this strategy. I'm telling you, someone will know that this organization is actually serious and they will start paying attention. If they don't close them, they will work hand in hand with them.
We have come to the end of this edition of Nisa Voices. I want to thank you, dear viewer, for continuing to watch the different episodes that will come your way. And Willa continues to evolve and contribute to the different discourse that is going on in our country, more issues will be discussed as we provide space for women, especially who are Muslims, to amplify their voices. Until next time, please hit the subscribe button and follow this channel because we want to reach as many people as possible. Thank you so much.